Hello everybody, I hope you're all having an amazing day. It's Wednesday, so we're going to be doing our usual little break from Road to Master and doing a little lesson, tutorial, if you can call it that. And I didn't really fancy doing a opening video today. I felt we can have a bit of a break from that and stuff. The openings will be back, so if you have any suggestions for that, please do let me know in the comments. But I was thinking about my time playing sports. You know, I've played other sports. Proper sports, physical sports. I was thinking back to my training sessions, I guess, and going back to the training session, we didn't play games in the training sessions. And anyone who has played sports, you don't really play games. You play drills in training, and then maybe you might implement them into a game later on and stuff. But most of the training sessions is just drills. And I was like, thinking about my chess training from that point, like I don't do anything like that. Yeah, I might do puzzles occasionally, but 90% of my chess training is just playing games and analyzing the games afterwards. And I was like, yeah, that's helpful. But like, it's not really learning anything. It's just trial and error, basically. So going back to when I first started chess, I used to do this all the time, and it really helped my game when I was first starting. And I don't do it anymore. And it's probably a shame because it's super helpful. Even just researching it for this video, super challenging, super helpful. And it's ranging from all the way to beginner, complete beginner, to master level games. And it's the chess.com drills. And these have been under our nose the entire time. But I feel like nobody talks about them. So let's try them out, and I'll show you where to find them right now. So before we start, I'm just going to help you guys find what we're talking about here. So we're just on the chess.com home screen, and we're going to go over to this left column over here, and we're going to click on the little hat, the little lesson icon, and scroll all the way down to the practice, which is a little target with an arrow going in. We're going to click on that, and you see here we're on the practice section, and on the right there are master games, and these are really useful as well. They just throw you into a position from a master game, basically, and you have to play that out. The openings are pretty self-explanatory. It just throws you into the end of an opening theory, I'm pretty sure, which again, super useful for middle game practice. But what we want here is the drills, which is the little whistle. And on the right, there are 5 little tabs. And these are the drills, basically. And I'm going to be showing you one example from each of these. So the attacking and defending, again, they're pretty self-explanatory. I especially recommend looking at the defending. I feel like defending is a skill that's often overlooked. It's quite useful as well in, like a middle game. If you're under fire and you don't know how to defend properly, that's when you get checkmated. It is very often that there is real mating threats that can't be defended. So practicing your defending is super important, and learning how to counterattack as well. Because these drills make you play it out to the end, you're going to learn how to counterattack if your opponent slips up. Your endgame fundamentals and your endgame practice, you might be familiar with some of these if you watch my endgame series. But your endgame fundamentals are going to be what we covered in the series. So these are your theoretical endgames, only a few pieces on the board, and you're just learning how to play them out, basically. Your endgame practice, these are more your practical endgame. So this is what you would probably find in a game where you've got way more pieces on the board and you're potentially trying to work it down into a theoretical endgame, something that you know the result of and something that you're happy with the result of as well. And then your imbalances. So these are super important, especially if you're more of an attacking player. You want to be looking for imbalances. Now, what are imbalances? Imbalances can be anything that's different in the position between you and your opponent. And this can be massive, so it could be like a queen for 2 rooks or something, or it could be something tiny like a pawn structure difference or opposite colored castling, opposite side castling, I should say. Now, if we click on one of these as well, you'll see how many there are. So this is just the attacking, and I would recommend potentially working through all of these at as high a level as you can. And you'll see if we click on one, let's look at this one. You can pick which side to play as. And then you can pick your level. So all of these examples I'm going to be playing against 2000, which is expert level bots, I guess. And you set this as strong or as not strong as you need. And just keep working at them. If you win, raise it up and see if you can do it any better, and just keep working at it until you get to whatever level you want to get to. And yeah, you just practice and you play it out. So let's crack on with the first example. So the first drill we're looking at here today is from the attacking column. And this is symmetrical position, and it's focusing on maneuvering. So we're playing as white here against a 2000 rated bot. Now, what I would advise you all to do, as per usual when we do puzzles or anything, something that you've just jumped into, analyze the position first. So we have, as the name suggests, a symmetrical pawn structure. The only difference is a few of these pawns, they're on different squares, but the general pawn structure is symmetrical. We both have these pawns on the e-file that are locked up. So what I'd point out straight away is their queen's on the open d-file. So can we do anything with these rooks to sort of hit that queen, possible? If possible. We've got this pawn that could potentially be hit, but also our pawn's a bit weak as well, so we have to watch out for that. They have some good bishops, better than our bishops, I would say. So can we do anything to make these bishops better? But I think most of the play is going to be about this open file, especially hitting the queen. Simply because if the queen goes anywhere on this side, they're going to be blocking in this rook. Yes, they could potentially work around, but that's going to take a while. And if they go to e7, we have this cheeky move, bishop a3, I think is a potential possibility, something that we can look at. So we've got a little hint. The name is maneuvering. That's the name of the drill. So can we maneuver a bit? And if you know the things I play, this is quite a common position. It's something I would potentially play in the King's Indian attack if they decide to go trade off. It's also potentially similar to the Philidor as well, which involves sort of like a Scotch but with d6. And knight f1 is quite a common idea, looking to get to knight f3. And this does two things. It's getting the knight to a better square. This knight can't really do anything here. It's stuck defending this, but it's also blocking the bishop. So it's getting the knight to a better square where it could potentially hop on one of these advanced sort of squares that's defended by this pawn. And secondly, it's opening up the central file for the queen. So I think we should go ahead with that. And there are things you can do here. If you go into the settings, you can change it so it can help you out. And there's a little hint button here. So they've played bishop to c5 here. Now that's a really good move, I think. It's sort of stopping our bishop a3 idea. And what do we do now? So if we play knight e3 here straight away, we're potentially getting a bit shaky on this pawn because we're blocking off our rook. However, there's nothing particularly wrong. I was thinking maybe bishop e3 here. We could have a look at. Or maybe we could just get the queen out straight away. Is also an option. To be honest, I'm not quite sure, and you can see how difficult these puzzles can be. It's not even puzzles, it's positions, I guess. Let's go ahead with our plan of knight f3. Okay, so they're preemptively moving their queen away from this open file now. Our bishop a3 is no longer an idea because they've got this bishop out now in front of their queen. It's probably okay for them. We do have this idea of putting the knight on d5. The problem is this loses a pawn straight away. And if we ever manage to play c4, we've got this massive hole, which is considered an outpost, really. So, potentially we could play bishop to b2 and try hit this pawn. So I think that's not a terrible idea, to be honest. They've got the open file now, and I think we actually have to just contest that. There's not much we can do. They go ahead and take there, which is interesting. We're not going to take with the pawn, we're going to take with the rook, which is forcing queen takes, which is fine. And now we could even potentially do rook to d3. The only problem is we're losing definite control of this pawn here. So maybe a queen back to c2 is the way to go. And we need to get this knight in the game as well. So the queen's come on now, and now they definitely have the open file. So I'm a bit worried about that. I'm thinking maybe even a rook e1. Oh, gosh. Probably even a rook. Yeah, rook e1. Yeah, so they're trying to trade off the queen here, and that's fine. I think we probably just have to go for it. go for it, queen f, bishop f2. And we actually have quite good control over these, which I'm sort of happy with. There we go. So now I am still worried about this pawn. We don't have to worry much about this open file because we are controlling it quite well. But I think maybe a c4 could do well, just hitting another attacker on this pawn. It's also cutting off some squares for their light squares. And there we go, straight away they're jumping in, which is fine. And now we have a bit of a target. They could potentially play c5. But I think if we're quick enough, we should be okay. I think a quick e5 could be good. And their knights had to go back. They're potentially looking at rerouting that, which is fine. Now, do we care that much if they play c5? I'm not sure. I think maybe a bishop a3 here could work well. Stopping e5 and potentially looking at getting the bishop onto d6 as well. Or we could no, because if we go after the pawn straight away, they're just playing c5. So if we go bishop a3, b6 is coming. And then b5 is a big threat. So maybe then we just push the pawn, but then this pawn's hanging, which is interesting. If we play c5 straight away. So that's our weakness, is this b pawn, actually, which is quite cool. So if we play a bishop g2, we're hitting this pawn straight away. And then we could actually play the bishop to c6. And if they play a c6, then bishop c3 is quite nice then. So I think that's quite a good effort. And they can keep pushing this pawn. I'm not too afraid of it. It's the further they push it, the less control they have over it. And now they don't actually have c5. So we can, I think, go ahead and just hit this pawn. And after the knight goes there, we're happy, I think, just playing f4. Kicking the knight again. Ooh, that's interesting. So the knight's now under attack, and it doesn't really have many squares, except now the knight can go to f3. So if we go up with d2 here, the fork's coming in, and we're having to trade off into an opposite coloured bishop endgame. And the pawn's on a light square as well, which makes things very tricky for us. Very tricky indeed. Wow, that's a great move, actually. Really good move. I think we might have to do it. The rook's under attack straight away, so we can't not do it, really. Because we can't let them push, because then they just promote. I think we're just going to have to go into this and play for a draw. We can't go down the exchange, surely not. The pass pawn's too strong. I think we're going to have to do it, which is a real shame. Yeah, we're going to have to just do it. Play the opposite coloured bishop endgame. The good thing is they do have some weaknesses. I think here c5 is a good idea. We can go bishop a3 to support it. And potentially we're looking at this a pawn. The only thing I would say is the rook's coming on d5. So what are we? We're even on pawns, and they have a weakness here. So how do we can't really stop them protecting this pawn because the bishop can always come to e2. So I think potentially a c5 could be smart. Stick our pawns on dark squares and just play for a draw. Or we could just not and try lock it up a different way. I think this is drawn no matter what, unfortunately. Unless we play a bishop versus rook, which I don't think is a particularly wise idea. Yeah, there's not much we can do. Yep. And we're pretty stuck here, actually. We can shuffle a bit, but it is just going to be shuffling. unfortunately. We can play this out as much as we want. There's nothing either of us can do. And yeah, this is going to be drawn. There we go. So we drew there. Yeah, we overlooked a few things. I think that generally we played well. And the best thing about these drills is that you can do an analysis and you can do a game review as well, which is, I think, really sort of the cherry on the top. And you can see here as white, we played with 88% accuracy versus an 88.7. So we were a bit less accurate than our 2000 rated bot. But then again, you know, it's 300 rating higher than us. So we did exactly the right thing with Rook F1. And Rook E3 was a bit of a mistake. Apparently H3 is the way to go. Bishop B2, yeah, I wasn't particularly happy with that. I think it caused more problems than it was worth. And then it forces us to play this trade that we didn't particularly want to do and make some maneuvers I think we didn't want to do as well. Oh, we hung a piece, which is brilliant. We hung a piece. Yeah, we weren't ever really winning past that. I mean, this is 0.1, so it's very slightly. Yeah, that was a great idea. Apparently, the computer didn't like it though, which is crazy. But yeah, this is just solid. Anyone, I think, could draw this. You just shuffle a bit. Apparently, it's slightly better for black though. Although slightly better in opposite coloured bishops is a bit rough. But anyway, that was the first example, and you can see how hard these can actually be, how tricky they can be, and you can keep playing this, and you can change the level of the bot. If it's too hard, you can make it easier. If it's too easy, you make it harder. So on to the next one, which I think is defending. So what do we have here? Exposing awkwardly placed pieces. So what's an awkwardly placed piece? I'm guessing it's this bishop here. So again, analyze the position. What do we have? We have 2 pawns here, and we have a very dangerous potential passer here. So I think we have 2 real ideas. I don't think we can do. Oh, sorry. I don't think we can really do anything else. So those are ideas. The problem I see with f5 is takes, bishop takes, and the rook's actually coming in on here, which is quite scary. Now, although I think this is potentially drawn, it looks very scary. Their rook's a bit riskier than ours. Not risky, more dangerous than ours. You know, they're quite controlling of this area. Which is good for them, I think. And their king can probably more easily cover some of this as well. I think probably c7 is the way to go. c7. And then we're even looking at sacking the bishop on c4 and taking one of those. c7, the rook comes back. We have this rook d8, and the king can come up. And you're playing this. I'm not sure if that's good or not. How many pawns do we have? We're down a pawn, and that would be giving up another pawn. So is this doubled pawn? We're going to be left with double passes. Are those particularly scary? I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I think our king would be a bit closer, so maybe not. I think we go with this c7 idea and play this out. And they did exactly what we thought. So we have 2 options here, I think. We could leave this and let them take and go up, or we can take and let the bishop in and take that. Which is an idea as well. So what's that? Takes, bishop takes, king comes in, we grab that. That's the key thing. So the king has to stay over there. At which point, if we can maybe get our bishop onto c6, that's potentially a lock, especially if we can get an a5 in. So I think that's probably the way to go. Oh, well, we get an e5 anyway, so that's good for us. And it locks them on light squares. So why can't we just get that? We want to put our pawns on light squares here. Now, I think this is probably drawn here. There is no reason for them to move these. and we can't really hit this pawn. So I think this is probably a draw. We'll try trade off, but again, there's not much we can do to force it. We could potentially get round here though. Ooh, that's a good move. I like that move. So we can't actually take this because then this pass pawn is way too strong. That's a really cool move. I like that. Now they've put this on a dark square though, which seems like a bit of a mistake. I can just take it, and then potentially we are better here. This is an interesting move as well. Can we take this bishop? Pawn takes, king there, pawn push, king takes, there. I don't think we're actually in time to take this, which is really cool. We can throw in a check potentially though, and go there. Now, are we actually winning this? That's the question, I think. I think we need to go after this one. There we go. Win this pawn. And all of a sudden, I think we might be winning, folks. Whoa! Threaten to trade off the bishop. Go over here and just push this pawn. They're gonna have to trade. There we go. So now we just need to make sure the king's cut off with our bishop and king. And win this pawn. And then we've pretty much guaranteed a win here, which is crazy to say it's a defensive puzzle. And we just need to checkmate. Bosh! Wow, beautiful game. I love that one. That was great. Let's quickly analyze this. Quick game review. I think we did that really well. I think our opponent made a few mistakes there. It's a bit of a roller coaster here. We got an 84.4% accuracy versus a 78.3%. And apparently this C7 idea is the mistake. So it's a drawn position. It's still drawn after this. Apparently he wanted F5. Now F5 just didn't seem particularly right to me. G takes. G, really? Bishop to H4? Oh, and then you're doubling their pawns if they take. And you've got two sets of double pawns. And this is still a threat. Wow. And that's still drawn? That's crazy. No, that's winning for white even. What? How's that winning? That's wild. What? Because they've got no more bishop covering the rook there. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. I wouldn't even consider that. What's the best move? Rook E8 here, and then you just take, and you've got a pawn, an extra pawn, and potentially even some mating threats here. That's wild. Well, we got Rook C8. Yeah, did exactly the right thing. And apparently you get an early E5 in, because that's where they made their mistake playing F5. Yeah, because we really wanted E5 to be played for us. We take this, and apparently this is drawn again. It wanted the king to come up, which makes zero sense to me. I'm not sure. I guess they can never defend this pawn, so it's something you don't have to take straight away. And I think that's something I need to get better at as well, is learning when you don't have to take something immediately. So this is drawn now, and then this king move, they needed to come in, and by doing that, they've let us get our king too close, I think. And then we kept trading off. I thought this could be drawn. But apparently this is still winning for us. We made a few mistakes coming around this side, which is fair enough. And then this is drawn. They let our king in. We go all the way back. And then they pushed it again, and that's when they lost it. And after that, we're just getting the pawn. We're getting the second pawn as well. And it's a pretty simple one. So that was the defending one. Really cool exercise, actually. Really enjoyed that. Super strange position. It's not something you would see particularly often, but it's got some really cool ideas in. So what have we got here? Endgame fundamentals. Rook and pawn versus bishop and pawn. This is wild. So again, analyze. It's a light squared bishop. So what do we want about light squares? We want our pawn on a dark square. We want theirs on ideally a dark square as well. But if we have ours on a dark square, theirs would be on a light square. So do we actually want ours there? Because if theirs is on a dark square, that means they can't defend it. So are we risking losing our pawn in order to get their pawn? And I think probably so, actually, because we know from our theory that a rook versus bishop is probably winning. I mean, it's a hard win for white. It's a very hard win for white. But it is probably winning. It depends what corner you get the king into, I think. So that being said, we probably want our pawn to stay on the light square, actually. And even so, there is no immediate threat to it. So how do we win this? We probably need to just disconnect their king from their pawn. And we're going to have a hard time doing it, I think, on this fifth rank. Because the king can go behind, and because the bishop could block any checks and stuff, it's going to be a bit tricky. So I think we actually have to go behind. Or below. Thing is, if we go behind, they can hit us. So we're probably going to end up going below. And if we go below, we go with the tempo on the bishop as well. So I think we probably go below. And then move over to f1. Now they've pushed on on the light square now, so they've committed to that. Another desirable outcome would be trading off the pieces if we can get the pawn as well. It depends on the position. As you know from the endgame videos that I've done, there are some potential draws. So here, I think potentially even we play g3. Yeah, and then we get the king to e4. And then maybe we go behind. We cut off the king. And now they're actually letting this happen. Because as we know from the theory videos, black gets the opposition here. Which means we can't actually win this. This would be a draw. So that's a tricky, tricky move. And we probably just want to cut off the king this way. Now this could be... Oh, that's a mistake, surely. That's got to be a mistake. Yeah, I don't think there was any need for that. I think you can go there. Anyway, king f8. So, immediately we could go here, but then they can go to f7, and it's a similar position because they move in with opposition. So, can we keep the pressure on the king? And wall off the king. Now we've walled off the king quite a bit now. And this is now looking way better for us. Because the king's further away. We can actually sack the exchange here. So we just do this now. Yeah, and they're not going to take now because it's a simpler draw. So we're just going to keep moving upwards. Be careful not to mess anything up. And we're just going to promote this pawn, I think. Just going to promote this pawn. They're going to have to sack the bishop for the pawn, or just sack the bishop in general. And we have a pretty easy win here, which is really nice. Beautiful stuff. That was really nice as well. A great example. It's trickier than it looks, I think. There's a lot of tricks what black has in this situation. So what was our accuracy here? We had a 79.8, which isn't particularly high, versus a 72.9. So they made a few mistakes here. And apparently our best move is actually g4, which is crazy. To stick it on the white square that boldly straight off the start, that's wild. That's real wild. But I guess then you have c6 coming. I guess that's the idea. Analysis. Review. The game review. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So the best move is actually g4 here. What's the follow-up? Bishop a2. Oh, and you go check on f5 and win the pawn that way. Wow, that's great. Surely not straight away like that. Is there anything they can do to hold on? What about bishop there? No, duh, because you take the pawn. So, like a bishop there or something? b5. b7, you go that way. Oh, I guess then you've got potentially some mating threats even. That's wild. Wow, g5, g4 straight away, sorry. It's crazy. Anyway, so we shuffled a bit here. We shuffled a bit. We didn't quite know what we were doing. We go to f8, check the king, and apparently this is only 2.8, so it's not exactly winning. But after this, it goes to 4.1, so it's a bit better here. And again, we can't take this pawn because we'll see if we take, it drops all the way down to just 0, 0, 0. There is nothing we can do. We've seen this before. Dead drawn position. Bishop to f3. Rook goes over. We check a bit. And then this was a huge mistake here. I think they keep shuffling. They decide to go back. And then we can get them out of the game completely. And this pretty much plays itself at this point. We just win the pawn. And that's that. But anyway, that was endgame fundamentals. So what have we got now? Endgame practice. And now you can see the difference between the fundamentals and the practice. There's way, way more pieces on the board. So this is same coloured bishops, Grunfeld endgame. So this is, I'm guessing, an endgame from a Grunfeld. So what do we know about the same coloured bishops? Again, let's analyse it. We have a 5 versus 4 and a 2v1. So we probably want to win one of these pawns. It's going to be easier to win one of these than one of these, simply because the king's on this side of the board. What else do we know? We want to stick our pawns on light squares, so they can't ever actually be hit by our opponent. So I think d5 straight away here is the way to go, followed by an f4 and try get down into this side. The problem is the bishop can come to here. So maybe actually a d3 just to stop the bishop coming onto d4. I think is the way to go. So they've played an e6 here. And we have to be careful not to let them lock things up on light squares. So we're playing a d5 if they play an f5. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. So we've got what we wanted here. We've got our bishop active and hit their pawns a bit. That was a bit pre-movie. I'm sorry. I didn't quite think about it crazy amounts. So what do we do here? What do we do here? We probably want to just get our king in the game. It's important to note that now they can't actually defend these pawns as well. So there are upsides and downsides to what coloured pawn, what colour your pawns go on. So I think now we could just bring our king over. That's a real interesting move. I think maybe we play an f3 here. And now we can't go to a5 because the king can get to b7. This is tricky. This is real tricky. What about an a4? Oh, that's a great move. Oh, I missed that completely. Wow. Real good move. I think this is lost. I think we've messed this up. Let's resign this and have a look at the analysis, and we'll try that one again. That was real tricky. Yeah, I think we're losing that. So d3 is the right move, king d3. And apparently you ignore the bishops and you just keep coming up. So where did we particularly go wrong there? It was f3, which is crazy because f3 seems like the move. It's still drawing though, which is crazy. So I think this whole bishop idea just doesn't work. So now we know that, let's have another go at this. We'll keep with the same idea, and we'll follow the king up idea. And yeah, there's nothing they can do. Now, do we come down? Take that. Now, d5 is an interesting move because we get this pawn, and then is this enough to promote? It could potentially be. And yeah, that's one, is it not? Maybe a g3 here just to stop the push. But g3, we push, then takes, and then push again. Oh no, but then they get the fork. Ooh, brutal. So let's go bishop c5 just to stop any of that. And then we've just promoted. Wow. That's crazy. I love that. Keep checking. And again, you can see how this is making you play it out. So a lot of people, and people who watch like chess from commentators and stuff, or have been introduced through YouTube videos, they say this is a matter of technique, you know, and they don't bother to explain what the technique actually is. You know, you read books and it's like, oh, the grandmaster says this is a matter of technique, so let's believe him. But actually, technique is technique. You have to learn the technique, and you have to have someone show you the technique, and you have to be able to practice the technique as well. So this is a really good way of A, learning the technique, and B, practicing the technique. So it takes a bit longer, yes, but the amount you learn from just doing bishop and queen checkmates like this, you know, in dead winning positions, it's way more worth it than anything else, you know. And it's just as important as any other sort of training. On to the last one here, we have imbalances. So this is a bit crazy. We have queen versus rook, knight, and an extra pawn as well, which is crazy. So we're the white side with the queen here. So again, analyze the position. We have the extra pawn. They have the extra pawn here. The good thing is it's a backwards pawn as well. The other good thing is the king's on the back rank, which is actually surprisingly weak. If we can get the queen onto any of these squares, it's surprisingly weak. What's the best way to do that? I think the best way is actually queen d5. Threatening this, potentially hit this back pawn as well. So it's doing two jobs, sort of. It's checking the king, and it's potentially hitting this backwards pawn as well, which is the big target. Another thing to note, our king's pretty safe. There's not much they can do to actually hit the king. They would have to get their rook down and their knight onto this e4 square, which is miles away as well. So I think queen d5 here is the way to go. We throw in a check. The rook moves. We hit the knight and the pawn. Rook goes back. And then queen c8 is a fork as well on the king and the knight. So I think that just is good. That's an interesting move. King up. That's really cool. I like that. Now potentially a check, and then we could even hit these 2 pawns as well. And this is really cool thing is that you don't get to practice this very often. You know, when do you get to see a knight and rook versus queen? You know, and it's easy to say that it's easy to win this, but truthfully, it's not. Especially like there's a lot of pressure on you in a game or something, or you're low on time. It's not easy to win this. Okay, so we're right back to sort of where we started here, which isn't great, but it's not particularly a problem. We could go to c6, and then we've got, again, a repeat of this position. So we need to do something a bit different then, I think. We could hit this pawn. Again, not particularly doing anything. Oh, but then we get the d4 square, and we're hitting the knight, this pawn, and this pawn. And there's no way on earth they can defend all three things. Surely not. They manage it, though. They do manage it. Wow. Okay. So. I don't really want to be pushing many of these pawns, you know. It doesn't seem like the right thing to do. Okay, so they've made a bit of a move here, which is good for us. Now, how do we punish them making moves? Because the other thing you need to know about queens versus other pieces is that when they're together, they're strong. So you need to try separate them the best you can. I think b5 goes to that. And the knights, again, you'll learn knights are very good defenders against queens, which is really annoying. And it might take a bit of shuffling like this, to be honest. Move the king up. Then you're threatening rook d3, which is annoying. Gosh. Okay, let's potentially throw in some checks. Aha! So, what we were doing there, we were hitting this and this. And again, if they try to save this, they lose either of these. And then we've got some back rank ideas as well. So we've got more forks. We just have to check this. There's no forks they can do that win anything for them. So we can just take this. And now their fortress is gone. Yes, they got this pawn as well. But their fortress is sort of gone now. And we can look for bigger weaknesses, I think. So I think a check. And then we've got a fork on the rook here. And that's going to force the king out a bit more. There we go. And then we can win this pawn. So we're getting there a bit now. We could win this pawn as well if we so wanted. There's no checks on the king. There we go. So we're getting somewhere now. And again, we can... Oh, we can't quite win this pawn because the rook's defending. But that's fine. We've got other things we can do. Check up here. Keep checking. Try get this king away. There we go. I'm liking this now. And then we take this queen. And there's no... It was important. There's no checks. We haven't moved the knight or the king. There is no checks. So now this is a bit better for us. We're 3 points of material up. And the king is wide in the open. And we just keep checking and keep searching for weaknesses. Ah, no. Okay, we can go back. It's fine. How about this check then? You know, it's so easy. Knights are such tricky pieces. So easy to mess this up. And we just... Maybe we push some pawns then. Bring the king in. Keep checking. We've got no more checks here. So push the pawn maybe. They've got some checks now. That's fine. Now we've got some more checks. Again, at some point it might even be beneficial to trade off the queen for the rook. So now we've got 2 passed pawns, which is great for us. Aha! Oh no, we can't quite do that. It would be nice to, but we can't. I think they get there in time. We've got a pin there, which is quite nice, stopping any nasty stuff happening. Again, is this an option? I think we know from our theory that the king on the rook file is a good draw. Or we might have got ourselves in a bit of a pickle here. You know, we're tied down to defending this. We've got a pawn up, which is great. Oh, it's nasty though. So the king's a bit against the wall here, which is good for us. That's a nasty move. That's a real nasty move, actually. Oh, have we messed this up? No, we keep going, we keep going. Ah, the knight's covered that. Ah. There we go, there we go. We keep it going. Oh, we can't even push that. Keep the checks coming. I don't think we can do this, you know. I think they've made a bit of a fortress. Oh, surely now we can push this. Now take the rook. Knight takes, pawn push. There's nothing they can do here. Yeah. Okay, now we have a queen versus knight, and this is equally not as easy as it sounds. You've got to constantly be on the watch for forks. Forks are the worst. And how do you do this? You know, you've got to get the king to the edge of the board, but it's way more trickier than it sounds. You've got to use every trick available to you, while constantly being watching out for forks. You know, it's brutal. There's forks there. Gosh, this is horrible. There we go. Yeah. So we're going to have to go up then. There we go. We're making a bit of progress. We got the king to the edge of the board now. Okay, what do? We pin the knight. Aha, we've got it. We got the knight. I wonder why they had to give it up there. Now, if we remember how to do a king versus queen mate, there we go. Oh, that was hard. That was very hard. I'm sure I made it harder than it should have been, but wow, that was crazy. Yeah, let's do a quick review because this has gone on way too long. That was I'm not as good as these as I thought I might be. 88.5 versus 85.5. So we did an okay idea trying to do this, but it turned out a bit futile, really. We struggled to do that, and we had to trade off a pawn in order to get it. Apparently, they meant to throw in a check here, which is wild. And they don't even bother with this extra pawn. We've managed to pick up the rest of the pawns. Slowly but surely. We did it. We weaseled our way in there. Traded off. It got a bit drawy at some point over here. But again, we managed to just keep being persistent with it. Keep throwing in checks. A bit shaky over here. I wasn't particularly happy. But again, we managed to do it. We pushed the pawn and traded off the queen at exactly the right time. And then this is just a queen versus knight, mate. I have no clue, to be honest. But anyway, wow. So, drills. Do all of these if you can. Work through the entire list. There are lots, you know. All these are imbalances. You've got the attack, defense, endgames. Whatever you think you're weakest at, if you don't want to do all of them, stick to the ones you think you're weakest at. Try get them as higher level bot as possible. I'm doing 2000 at the minute. And they do make mistakes, you know. They're not impossible. But just keep at it and do them the best you can and learn them as well, and learn why you do certain moves, not just what the moves are, why you do the moves. But anyway, I hope this helps you all. I hope you learned something. Please like if you liked, please subscribe if you really liked, and I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye bye.